Hello and welcome to Westpac's Davidson Institute. This short video is from the Business Planning series and is on understanding the operating environment. No man is an island, and that applies to business as well. An essential part of business planning is understanding your operating environment. Who's playing in the market, what external factors may impact your business, and what internal factors may be influencing your success. Firstly, let's look at identifying your niche in the market and how that is affected by 5 external factors. This looks at things like other players in the market and how they can impact your business. Developed by renowned management author Michael Porter, 5 Forces analysis is designed to give businesses a clearer understanding of the industry and how they interact with other participants in that industry. The objective of the analysis is to identify the profit potential as well as the forces that could harm a business's profitability, protect or extend a competitive advantage, and anticipated changes within the industry structure. So what are these 5 forces? Well, firstly, we have supplier power. Supplier power looks at things like how many suppliers are there to the industry and how many does your business have? How big are these suppliers? And most importantly, who has the balance of power? If you only have a couple of big suppliers, you may be in a position where you have to accept their prices and terms rather than having the power of choice. An example of an industry where this has changed significantly is electricity supply. As recently as 10 years ago, there was only one power supplier in each state. Their balance of power has diminished significantly following deregulation and the emergence of new competitors. The next consideration is buyer power. This refers to when the buyer, as in your customer, is in the position of power, perhaps due to there being several alternate suppliers they can choose from. Information is power, and now more than ever, there are so many sources of this information. The emergence of the internet has seen a huge number of customers using this as an information source and using that information to source the product at the lowest price possible from the most convenient source possible. Then we have threats of substitutes. This is about what else your customer could do or purchase to fulfill their need or want. For example, when purchasing chocolates, the underlying need might be a gift for someone, in which case as alternative or substitute might be flowers. This means that florists, not just other sweet vendors, need to be considered as competition as well. Keep in mind too that the substitute may not even exist yet. We truly live in an age of innovation and disruption. Remember the old Walkman? From the cassette tape, then to CDs? It was the ultimate solution for portable music. Then, of course, came along Apple with the new product called the iPod, and of course, the rest is history. There aren't too many Walkmans out there these days. The next force to be considered is barriers to entry. This is about how difficult it is for new competitors to join your industry. Are there any restrictions that make entry into the industry more difficult or less attractive? Think about coffee shops, for example. They seem to be popping up everywhere these days because it doesn't take much effort or money to get set up with a coffee machine, a hole in the wall, and a barista certificate. This is an industry that has few barriers to entry, so your competition can change rapidly. The pharmacy industry, on the other hand, has a number of barriers to entry governed by legislation. For instance, to own a pharmacy, you must be a qualified pharmacist. There are also regulations that restrict the number of pharmacies in particular locations. These are 2 very effective barriers to entry. Though again, this is an industry that is changing rapidly with the advent of those big box pharmacies out there. Finally, barriers to exit is all about how difficult it is to get out of your industry. At some point, you're going to be looking to get out of your business, whether that's by closing down all or part of the business or even selling it. So what are the things that are going to make this more difficult? Are there any contracts or leases that need to be paid out? Are there conditions on the site if it was to be used for another purpose? For instance, there are a number of environmental guidelines in place to redevelop a site such as a petrol station that can add significant costs to your exit. Or as in the case of pharmacies, if you want to sell as a going concern, then you would need to find a suitably qualified pharmacist with the financial capacity to purchase your business. Looking at these 5 forces, supplier power, buyer power, threats of substitutes, and barriers to entry and exit, is all about understanding who's playing and winning in your industry and thinking about how you can minimize any negative impact or make the positives work to your advantage. One of the most frustrating aspects of running your own business is the number of things outside of your control that impact on your ability to be successful. Many of these things happen in the external operating environment, which is why it's important to understand what is or could be happening in your external environment. We're going to look at how a PEST analysis can help with this. The PEST tool is a simple but empowering tool that helps a business to understand the bigger picture. It helps provide insight into the way the economy is changing, what is driving that change, and, if used well, how the business can take advantage of the change. PEST is an acronym for political, economic, social, and technological. The analysis looks at changes or trends in each of these areas. Political is often grouped with legal and looks at changes that may be occurring due to government structures, government policy, regulatory bodies, legislations, just to name a few. An example of the impact of a change in government policy is the home insulation industry. The 2008-2009 home insulation program was introduced as part of a government economic stimulus package during the global financial crisis. When the program began, the home insulation industry was not highly regulated. Unfortunately, during this program, there were a number of preventable deaths of installers, which eventually contributed to the subsidy being abruptly withdrawn by the government. There were quite a number of businesses caught out with unsaleable stock when this change occurred. Both licensing and training have been now dramatically improved because of the program. But again, this has imposed restrictions and additional costs to the businesses in this industry. Economic covers things like interest rates, inflation, unemployment, consumer and business confidence. Think about the impact of exchange rates, for example. For those of you importing and exporting, the changes in the Aussie dollar will have either a positive or negative effect on either your cost to import or the revenues from your exporting. Changes in interest rates may impact your costs, particularly if you have significant borrowings. But it can also affect business and consumer confidence, which can impact your income. Regular analysis of economic factors such as these helps the business to identify any adverse effects or potential opportunities and plan for them. Social aspects of the external environment are things like demographics, birth and death rates, consumer preferences, or environmental changes. The current trend towards a healthy lifestyle has seen many changes to the groceries we buy and the menus in restaurants and takeaway food stores. Even Macca's. McDonald's latest testing lab in Sydney's inner city suburb of Camperdown has table service, and the menu includes dishes such as quinoa and pulled pork. Many customers that have been interviewed have said that they would not normally set foot into a McDonald's restaurant, but they enjoy their experience in the new concept cafe. The social trend of a healthier lifestyle has also seen a significant increase in the number of gyms and the emergence of a new occupation, the personal trainer. Technological aspects of your external environment include things like technology advancement and the rate of change, increases in bandwidth, and investment in research and development. This is an aspect that is changing at an exponential rate at the moment, bringing growth or challenges to many industries. Take Kodak, for example. In the mid-1970s, Kodak had 90% of all global film sales. It was a household name, a huge conglomerate. A business, however, that failed to use the information presented to them and to prepare for the rapid change in technology in their industry. They agreed digital technology was coming and in fact had actually developed the first digital camera in the early 1970s. But they couldn't imagine a world would exist without film. They did not prepare for how quickly you and I would take up this digital technology, and as a result actually went into receivership and had to sell off their digital IP to get themselves back into a position to continue training. Imagine that. So, PEST analysis is a useful tool when examining your external environment. Remember, the whole point of using a tool like this is to become aware of and identify things that could negatively impact the business and prepare for them, but also to identify opportunities that the business could leverage to become more successful. It also helps you to articulate to stakeholders what's happening and show them that you have a clear understanding of what is going on to get their buy-in to your strategy and business plan. To help gain a better understanding of our internal environment, we can use a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is another simple yet powerful tool that aids a business in evaluating the fit between a business's internal resources and capabilities, that is its strengths and weaknesses, and the possibilities that exist, its opportunities and threats. This tool could be used both for the business as a whole, as well as narrowing it down to analyze a specific project, part of the business, or even an individual. Strengths, of course, are those factors that make your business more effective in your market. Weaknesses are those things that can limit a business's effectiveness or competitiveness. Opportunities are favorable situations or trends that can improve the business, while threats are unfavorable situations or trends that can impede or jeopardize the business. For example, let's say you're a small software company that has skilled salespeople with strong client relationships as a strength, but possibly has a weakness of a limited product range. Well, this can be viewed as a threat as there are many substitutes that are rapidly entering the market. However, it could also be viewed as an opportunity to utilize those relationships and negotiation skills to expand your supplier relationships and thus your product range. By examining your business's internal environment in this way, you can minimize threats, reduce weaknesses, use your strengths, and optimize your opportunities. Some of the other information that can be sourced from the Davidson Institute on business planning are the rest of this series of videos on the benefits of business planning, strategic planning, and the 7 Ps of planning, and also our live webinars, Foundations of Business Planning and Optimizing Business Planning. Thank you for viewing this video on understanding the operating environment. We wish you all the best with your business planning.